Oh, hey. Okay. Well, my name is Stephanie Nadolny. I am a voice actor and professional singer, novelty songwriter, and yeah, music lover.
Absolutely. So, kind of give me a rundown. I'm familiar with your work. Kind of just tell us what you've been in, what we might have heard you in. Talk about the music a little bit too, like
Yeah.
what you've done music wise.
Well, I started with music. I started with singing, and then I did funny voices as a kid just to embrace that whole thing just for fun as a kiddo.
Awesome.
And then I pursued my first passion, which is singing and music, and pursued anything and everything involving music, singing, and grew up in whatever I could get into growing up. We moved around a lot, so it was a little bit difficult, but I was involved in as much as I could be as far as theater and talent shows, community theater, majored in drama in college. Yeah, I just auditioned for anything and everything involving singing, dancing, and acting. So all of the above.
Awesome. Did I hear a little rumor? Did you end up in Coffeyville, Kansas for high school?
I did. My stepdad was transferred ever since my parents split, and then my mom remarried. I was about 7, and we were living down. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, but we were living in northern Houston, Texas at the time. And then his job had him transferred to small towns all over Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and then back down to the Dallas Fort Worth area. So I moved
A lot, sounds
against
like.
my will. But yeah, no, I did end up in Coffeyville, Kansas, southeastern, almost, I mean, just on the border of Oklahoma.
Yep.
So just barely into Kansas. And I was there from middle of eighth grade to almost to the end of my 11th grade year, which those are pretty crucial years as
Absolutely.
far as, growing up. You really grow up a lot between those ages.
That's a stone's throw from here. I think it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Wichita. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
I had
cool.
some friends that definitely, moved out of that area and live in that Wichita area. And I'm going to be there in person at one of my conventions coming up. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. I'm
I
excited to
haven't done
meet
a
you.
signing in Kansas. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there to shake your hand as well.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about Dragon Ball. How did that come about? Did you get it with an audition or?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, I had always been involved in voice acting. It was a passion of mine, but I had never really sought out as a child to be a voice actor. I was doing it all the time anyway. So I was imitating everything I heard, watching cartoons and on TV. And I had like a cassette tape recorder. So I would carry that everywhere I went, and I would record people's voices, friends' voices, babysitters' voices, make my own shows. A friend of mine in 7th grade, that whole summer before 8th grade, we got together and recorded the funniest, like kind of like radio show interviews. We would make up the characters and go back and forth. And I just developed a deeper love and passion for that because I was actually creating my own characters. And again, doing it for fun to pass the time. Back in the day, that's really about all we had is, cassette tapes and records and record players. And then we would run around and ride our bikes and maybe play a little bit. Video games were kind of the arcades were around about that time. So I'd go to the arcades and do that too. But I developed an affection for it more so around that age and was also very involved in piano lessons and singing. And I was writing my own songs and poetry and keeping a journal. So I was just really immersed in all of those things. But anything involving singing was my first love. But what ended up happening that got me into professional voice acting, I was performing with a professional touring, internationally known show band called Vince Vance and the Valiants. And I was actually in my first band at the time when I got the audition for that. And I jumped out of college and on the road instantly when I got the opportunity to travel with a show band. So
Yeah.
it was comedy, skits, costumes. I mean, it was just everything I always wanted to do. And I ended up performing with them almost off and on for like 25 years. Because once I got on the road, I got that itch and I never wanted to go back. What happened with that whole thing is I was in the Dallas Fort Worth area and, was in a big city area where there were more opportunities, which is great. Now I love it here in Dallas Fort Worth. I met another performer with a Grammy Award winning polka band, and they're called Brave Combo out of Denton, Texas, which is where I was living at the time, and just commuting to and from Dallas to get on a tour bus with a big band, 15 other people,
Wow.
and all the time. And when I was recording with that band and performing with them, I ended up in the studio and I was called in to record some vocals for a project that was being produced by Funimation at the time. And when I was there, I met the producer of Dragon Ball Z. Little did I know, I didn't know absolutely anything at all about anime, but he had heard something in my voice that sounded animated, and I had done some stuff with Chuck E. Cheese. And so we exchanged information. It was a long time ago. I think it was like 1998. And I got called in for the audition. There was not an open call of any kind. And so I showed up to the audition, very excited to see what that was all about. You know, you got to audition for anything and everything, or you don't ever have a shot at any really at anything if you don't try, right?
Absolutely.
You get a lot of no's, but sometimes you get a yes here and there, and that's exactly what happened. I went in and auditioned for female characters that I had no idea who they were, what they were for, but that just seemed like the natural thing to do. I did run through those auditions, and there were 3 people in the room, kind of like judges. It was pretty high stress, but they asked me if I could do the voice of a young boy. And so I threw out what I thought was sounded like a young boy. And I got the role of Gohan from the Ginyu Saga. And that's where my professional voice acting career began. And that was in 1998. And we started soon after recording in a little small studio back in the day. And one studio, one director, one ADR director. And this was like back when we were recording and then rewinding the tape, and it was interesting. We were efficient with it, but it was nothing like it is today. I mean, like today it's like computers and computer screen. Like we had paper scripts in a booth with a microphone, headphones, a music stand, and then watching a TV screen through the booth window to dub and match the flaps of the Japanese renditions of the shows. So this one I was working on was Dragon Ball Z, and then I finished that and was asked to voice Goku in Dragon Ball, which is again a whole nother show I'd never heard of before. And then, being a smaller company and already being there for your session, I was asked to do a lot of the background voices for different episodes, women screaming, children crying. I happened to fall upon the role of Isekai in Dragon Ball Z as well, which is completely different than Goku's voice.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, boy. They showed me a picture of her and I was like, oh, well, let's try. Yeah, let's take a stab at it. And I just did that voice, and they loved it.
That's
so
awesome.
One of my voices in my arsenal of living life, and taking ideas from voices I had heard either in my family or growing up and moving around and things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, moving around probably helped a little bit with the voice acting too, hearing different people talking and stuff like that. But
different accents and different age groups of different types of styles of the voice. The nuances of the voice were something that I think I just was naturally good at recognizing. Like if I think I can do a voice or I can mimic, I won't do it unless I know I can do it like balls on. Like I've got to be like nails.
Gotcha.
Or I won't even say I can do it. My ear, like I know if it sounds close to what it's supposed to sound like or not. And that's where like my mimicking skills kind of come in. And I'm like, if I can't ace it, I'm not going to do it. I started imitating Beavis and Butthead and South Park characters, and then just various other ones along the way, King of the Hill. And so I have fun doing some of that. I'm always challenging myself every time I hear something new, if I can capture the nuance of a certain voice. The character voices are more fun for me.
You got that professional mentality, just always working technically.
Always improving myself, and not just my lines of work, but as a person, just trying to be a better person, be the best version of yourself, which is good. I think we can all do that on a daily basis.
So you started with Gohan's voice during the Ginyu Saga, correct?
Yes.
So how far did you get with Gohan? Like I know they replace people all the time, but how far did you get with Gohan?
The rest of the entire that saga, I guess Frieza saga, and then I actually was able to voice Gohan through the Cell saga.
So that big Kamehameha was you too, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I look back now and it's like, oh, well, I guess this is, I just showed up to work. You just go up for your session. It's like, what are we doing today? You don't even know. I mean, you just show up and then you dive in, follow direction, and give it your best. And that voice was very, very difficult to do. But I mean, mainly just because prolonged use of the voice and really grovelly hours and screaming and talking extremely low. And here I am, a female, first of all, and I'm like a high soprano vocalist when I was, doing these roles. So it was challenging, but I loved every minute of it, and was very honored to take on that role, because for me it was a completely different voice, the Cell Saga Gohan. I mean, it just sounds completely different. I mean, some of the lines may have been similar, and that's fine, but yeah. So then we were able to go back from the very, very beginning and have the full cast start with episode 1 and then all the way up to the Ginyu Saga. So I was able to complete that cast with my other castmates so that it was all the same cast for Dragon Ball Z.
That's awesome.
But once Gohan grows up, goes to high school, the voice was granted to Kyle Bear to voice Gohan as an adult.
So what I heard was you did Dragon Ball after you got started with Dragon Ball Z, correct?
After.
Yep. So how was it going from like Gohan back to his dad? Did it just kind of feel natural? How did you change the voice in order to encapsulate, because it's kind of similar families? Did you kind of use that as an inspiration for that?
I just followed the direction, and I was given a background story so that I could actually tap into my acting skills to come through the voice as a child that's extremely innocent. I absolutely fell in love with Goku. Right. Being that he's funny, he's he's innocent, he's silly, he's the little boy I could never be. And I could like channel this. I had brothers. I had two stepbrothers and a brother. And on my dad's side in another state, I had another stepbrother and a stepsister. So, but mostly boys around me everywhere, kids down the street. I hung out, was a tomboy for a while. So I definitely had material there to where it was just not as hard on my voice and it didn't do as much damage to my vocal cords. And I was singing all throughout the recording of all of this stuff with that show band. And so in and out of touring anywhere from 3 days to a month at a time, I'd be on the road. So I was constantly using my voice. That was keeping my chops up. So I was able to like really kind of tackle some of those harder screams and yells and lines of whatever. And the rasp came naturally too, because I was singing so much that my voice naturally lowered as I got older anyway. Yeah. In fact, sometimes when I laugh around the fans at like the Comic Cons, they're like, oh my gosh, you kind of sound like you laugh like Gohan or you laugh like Goku. I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of do. The laughing is the most showing. So yeah, that's kind of how all that went down. I just followed direction and then a lot of fun. And I personally love comedy. So I was being able to do a character that wasn't so serious all the time was fulfilling for me personally. Absolutely. I had a lot of fun with that part of it.
So I know that back in the day, you guys were pretty much in a booth watching a TV screen from the music stand. Did you guys ever get together and talk about your characters or anything like that? Or was there any collaboration between you and your...
Yes, there was quite a bit of that early on. The company was really small and there was like one booth to record in. We would just share the times, business hours mostly, 10 to 6 or whatever, break for lunch. And I would see the other voice actors that were involved and other directors in the hallway in between breaks and then coming and going. And then as the company grew, there was Studio A, then Studio B, then Studio C. So then we had 3. More properties were acquired, Blue Gender, Kitty Grade and some others. And I was so excited to not only be a voice actor there on the regular, but also through the contacts with Brave Combo out of Denton, Texas, Carl Finch was asked to put together some of the anime themes in English. So I was able to participate in creating the lyrics from the Japanese translation into English so that it would make sense in English.
Follow the melody.
Lyrics. Yeah, with the lyrics that convey the same meaning and that are also somewhat of a rhyme that kind of makes sense, would come across as a song. So, and in doing so, I was asked to sing some of the themes. So that was something I got to do that combined not just the voice acting under the same umbrella, but also to be able to access those singing skills. And I directed a couple of singers as well so that they could shake it up and have different singers involved. The first one I did was the Sayonara Bye Bye theme, which I think is one of the endings to Yu Yu Hakusho.
Okay, cool.
It's crazy because a lot of my fans or the listeners of my work don't realize I'm a singer, and that's something near and dear to my heart. I like to do both, and juggling both has been very fulfilling.
So we are live. We do have some people in. We have a couple of questions to ask you real quick.
Okay.
So do you have a favorite audition? That's a little bit of a weird question, but do you have a favorite audition? Because I know you get little slips to read. Kind of talk about one of your favorite times of audition.
A couple I can come up with, but as far as Funimation, like I said, that the audition for East Kai, just kind of thrown in my lap. I was already there. We were wrapping up the session. It's like, hey, we think we know who we're going to cast as East Kai. What do you think? Here's what she looks like. Throw us something crazy and over the top. And so I just said, oh, how about this one? And they loved it. And I liked that the company at the time, I'm not sure what's up with them now, another Crunchyroll, but paying attention to the voices and that them sounding completely uniquely different is something that I liked about the English dub with my experience. And so the fact that, she sounded completely different was probably a huge part of why I was cast as that character, because it sounded nothing like Goku at all, nothing like Gohan, which is great because that's what I feel like in some ways is my specialty is the character voices.
Absolutely.
So that was my favorite audition because it was fun. And then there I was like, what would a German English teacher, which it's funny to me anyway, that a German, person would speak English and then teach it. So it's like, well, what would that sound like? So it's like, please open your textbooks, which I don't know if that's German or not, but they liked it. That was a very small part, but it was fun.
There's another question we'll get to a little bit later. I kind of noticed, are we allowed to talk about Vance and the Valiants?
Vance and the Valiants.
So I kind of heard something about a lawsuit going against Mariah Carey. Are you part of that lawsuit? Or not at all? Okay.
Nope. That's something I haven't talked to Vince Vance about it personally. Vince Vance is a near and dear friend of mine. He's practically a family member to me because I joined the band when I was just turned 19 and I was working in a play. And he came out to hear me to see if I would be a good Valiant. Vince Vance and the Valiants featuring the Vivacious Vixens of Rock and Roll, Venus, Violet, and Victoria.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it worked out great with my experience being a singer, dancer, and an actress. So I was on the road with a whole family of people, and so these people would come and go in and out based on, whether they stayed with the band but Vince Vance is the only original member that stayed the entire time. He's still there. He's had the band 50 years.
Oh,
yeah, I joined in right before their 20th anniversary and was there for the 25th, 30th, 35th, 40th, and then last September, the 50th reunion. He's like a family member to me. So I wish him the best in that. I do feel it's not really, it's all speculation.
absolutely,
Just,
absolutely.
what's going to happen. It's all going to have to be done through the court system to figure out what's up with how that's going to the outcome. But Vince Vance and the Valiant's original song, All I Want for Christmas Is You, was written and released in 1989. I hadn't even heard of the band yet. I was still in high school. But the Mariah Carey version came out 5 years later. And even though the melody's different, the lyrics are very similar. The title's exactly the same. It's very hard, and it would probably be very hard for most people to think that the inspiration for Mariah Carey's version that they hadn't heard the Vince Vance. I mean, the lyrics are extremely similar, but I don't know how that's going to go down. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of people get confused because Vince Vance had the first hit with it, same title, similar lyrics, different melody. In fact, I was part of the band for a long time and sang that song more than I can count. I mean, I can sing it in my sleep. And that's one of the songs we did every show, no matter what time of year it was. We would definitely feature Vince Vance. All I Want for Christmas Is You. So yeah, but more and more people. I mean, it was already a big hit. It still is a big hit at Christmas, and a lot of people like to hear the original version of the Vince Vance and the Valiants. All I Want for Christmas Is You. And so, but I'm telling you, that was like some of the best times of my life is traveling the United States, some parts of the world for a naval base tour, singing. And I mean, I eventually became like the person in charge of costumes and mentoring and recruiting young singers that would want to come on the road and helping them spread their wings and like, here's what you wear, and just their makeup. And it was a lot of fun. If Vince ever needs anybody, whether it's me or somebody else, I try to help send him, I know someone who could probably do it, or if I'm not working, I'll do it, so yeah.
You speak fondly of it, so I can tell you love it. So with all of this, talk about your convention experience. I know you've probably been hitting the road a lot more lately now that COVID's down. But kind of talk about your experiences with conventions, because I'm sure it's been absolutely insane for you.
It has. I missed it in 20. 19 and 20 were slow. 21 started to come out of the dark. My favorite thing is to be around the fans and be around people anyway. So COVID was extremely difficult for me emotionally, and man, I mean, not being able to go anywhere and everything being shut down and not having that connection to other human beings. I mean, some people absolutely loved it. They hold up, and you're doing that for several months and into a year or two. That's a long time to be, not around other people. I mean, I was like, what am I going to do today? Please, let's just go to the grocery store or something. I can't take it anymore. So, but, I think that was a good time for everybody to just kind of like look inward. They were able to find ways to work from home. That was a little bit difficult for me at the time. My band, Moonglass, I have my own band now. It's kind of an offshoot of a band we had at the WinStar World Casino for the senior breakfast. It was called the High Rollers. Now we're Moonglass. We had a bunch of gigs that we had to cancel. So we were working, I wouldn't say necessarily full time, but a lot of the time we were working and performing live shows around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we had to cancel a lot of those. So that was very, very, being that was kind of our bread and butter, at the time. So thankfully, I was a saver. And so like, I knew going into my profession that as a self-employed performer in the entertainment industry, that it wasn't always going to be a lot of work. It was going to be up and down, up and down. You might get paid really well for this one, and then you might play a wedding with my singing. And so, I mean, it was always up and down. So I was always just really good with money, and I was able to survive, financially, but it wasn't easy. The hardest part was just having to find ways to fill your day and be productive and feel like you're still getting something done towards whatever goal you've got in a world that's shut down. Yeah. So yeah, but I'm resourceful. I found ways to, get out and about and, walk people's dogs. And I found all kinds of things to do. And then there were some auditions and some things I could submit from home. And so that encouraged me and my business partner to set up a studio. So now we have this really nice studio where we can record auditions and radio spots and whatever it is. So yeah. And then I help people that need demo reels and people that are interested in going into voice acting workshops and stuff. So the Comic-Cons have been great. I've actually, for a long time I thought, since I've voiced these characters many years ago, there was a time when I thought that there wouldn't be necessarily a need for me or for me to appear at these conventions. So it was very humbling to realize that, being cast in these roles, this show is so outrageously popular even today, and that a lot of the fans grew up, watching it and listening to all the voices, and then that's what they hear. That's what they heard when they were growing up. So I hear a lot of people that come up in their 20s and 30s like, hey, you're the voice of my childhood, or you're one of the voices of my childhood. And so it's been really fulfilling to get out in front of the fans, and sometimes with some of my voice actor friends, the Bulma and the Frieza of my era, and sometimes we do events together. So I've actually been able to book pretty much every weekend this
Wow.
year. 2021 definitely got better. 2022, pretty much every weekend. I mean, and what's happening now is a lot of comic book stores, either have an event or they have like a grand opening, and then they may say, hey, we want so and so and so. Most of the stuff I've been doing is in Texas, but I have been traveling a little bit. I think this is the coming weekend I'm in Denver. Last weekend was Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. And then I think I've got Wichita, Kansas coming up at the end of the month. And then in July, it's back to Florida. Florida's been a big one for me lately. Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville. Yeah, and I love it because I feel like I'm going kind of back to what I was doing already in my 20s and 30s, which is traveling
on the road.
So,
Yeah.
but it's like I just kind of slid back into that role, and it's like, am I going to fly? Are we going to drive? So, I mean, I love it, and they're quick trips. They're not, long. I can get back to my dog and my cats and back to my life and kind of regroup and start over. So I mean, I love it. It's really helping me, come out of the COVID blues, where you're just like you're all just like, what are we going to do? And of course now we got inflation and everything else. Everything costs more. So I actively work as much as I can, and I actually enjoy it. But it's a balance. We all have to find whatever our balance is.
For sure.
And
So
just try.
where's the furthest you've traveled for a convention?
Oh, hands down would be Australia.
You went to Australia?
Australia, New Zealand. Yeah.
Awesome.
I was asked to come over there in 2002, 2004, 2012, and 2018.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I just figured, I did these voices years ago. Unless I'm casting something new or there's something coming out, that's what you kind of hear on TV when there's like a talk show there. They have guests that are, announcing some new project or something that's going on. So for me to be back in the con scene is crazy awesome. It's like, wow, people, I mean, they like me. I mean, I did this stuff years ago, but I'm also always, on the lookout for the next big thing. And, whether it's, Disney or, I mean, I did OKKO for a little bit.
A little bit. That's a ton. You did a ton of work for OKKO, didn't you?
OKKO. Well, I helped them with the developmental Lakewood Plaza Turbo, which was the pilot, and then it got picked up, and so I was involved in the first 8 episodes. I wasn't local to LA, and at the time they really wanted to deal with a local cast. So
okay.
But it was a great opportunity, and I'm definitely not closing the door to anything like that. I mean, I definitely haven't retired, just because some of us get replaced, with Kind Super. I'm not involved in Kind Super. I actually kind of just beginning in a way. I'm like, because I have a lot of different ideas and things that I want to do, and I want to get back into the singing jingles and writing novelty songs. There's some stuff on YouTube, Kids Christmas, Halloween Rocks. There's some stuff I wrote for morning show radio years ago, parodies, like Weird Al Yankovic stuff where you change the lyrics and make it funny, and then you sing like the original artist. So I've got some stuff that I've done, some Britney, Broccoli Spears parody. I did one for American My Doll airing monthly on Fox, and I did a whole song about a moment like this when Kelly Clarkson, just funny stuff like, I was a big fan of Weird Al Yankovic growing up. And I'm actually Polish too. Nadolny's Polish, so he's Polish. And anyway, I got really involved in doing funny stuff like that. And as a result, it's kind of looking back, it's kind of been like a resume, not just something you write on paper, but like the actual experience of coming up with these concepts and being creative with them and then making them funny and stuff. So it would be a dream job for me to have like a little deal where I can write parodies and jingles and make them funny and produce them, which it's, who knows? I just have to get the right people and the right equipment and the right musicians and whatever to do it, because it has to come out quick. Absolutely. Because it's topical, it's current, and then that's it. But absolutely. So I do it for fun anyway. In my car, I'll change the lyrics and make them funny.
So we did have another question. What is your favorite voice line ever? Do you have a favorite quote that you like to do?
There's so many that I can't even count for Goku. He's just so hilarious. I think it's funny when he says things like, Master Roshi, there's a girl downstairs, stinky. When he comes out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just the lines about not knowing what a girl is. And, I thought everyone had a tail. Oh, well, no big deal. He doesn't, nothing phases him. He's just whatever. And the innocence and the humor are great. And the line I get a lot to ask to write on an autograph or a print or a poster is, or a pop toy is so like, why do girls have butts on their chin? Or why do women have butts on their chin? Whatever it really is. I get asked to, yeah. So he's just funny. Yeah. So those are my personal favorite, but for Gohan and the Cell Saga, definitely like, I'm my father's, or something like that. Hope that wasn't.
No, but right, I got you tied in right here.
Yeah. And just the really intense lines that I personally find inspiring now that I look back at the work I did and when I listened to it and I apply it to my life, it's like I kind of came out of the depths of kind of being bullied and being the new girl all the time. And then Gohan was kind of the same way. And then he finally he just can't take it anymore. And then he seizes the moment and, so then there's victory. He's victorious. And so I can, I liked a lot of the lines that where he was protective of the ones he loved and he had to find some strength that was within that he didn't even know was there really because he never really kind of believed in himself. So, the fans always have something unique, but I do get asked for similar lines, a lot. Or they'll say, "Hey, you pick something. You write what you want." I'm like, "Okay."
Of the millions you said, right?
Right. I mean, it's been so long since it's not something I can just tap. I mean, I'd have to like look up. We go through these scripts pretty quick, years and years ago, and so I'd have to. I mean, I even have VHS tapes of Dragon Ball Z at home in a box, and it's like
we may have to talk and see if I
it's
can
so
get one off for you next week.
vintage.
Yeah.
It's so vintage. So my nieces are 18 and 22, and when they were growing up, I was doing the voices. Back then when they were little. 99 and then the second one she was born in 2003, so they just knew I did funny voices and sang all the time, and now that they're older they're like, Stephanie, do you realize that like your autograph is going for this much and this that, your IMDb page and Wikipedia, with Google and everything, but I didn't even know all that was going on. I really didn't. I was just going to work and singing in a band and staying busy. And now I'm like, wow, look at that. There's like people love the show. I mean, they just, I mean, some people don't, and that's fine. But the ones that do, man, those anime fans are
Die hard.
Devoted. Yes, they are. And they bring some of the coolest stuff to these conventions. They bring like stuff that's original or their original artwork or somebody that they commissioned. Some things are framed, some things are ginormous. I mean, it's fun to see what the fans come up with. That's another interesting facet to doing these in-person appearances in Comic-Con. It's fun. And then interacting with the other guests is fun too.
Like you said, people have brought you stuff. Like, what's the weirdest thing somebody brought that was original? Or I guess most unique. Let's not go with weird. Let's go with most unique, I guess.
Most unique is, well, someone brought this, I want to say it was like a fiberglass. It was giant. And they had two of Frieza and one of Super Saiyan Gohan.
Okay.
I signed it, but it literally was just huge. I mean, I had to have somebody help me hold it to take a picture because it was so heavy. So that was kind of like the most unique thing somebody had made. And then I sometimes get people drawing or painting their rendition of what they, think Kid Goku or Kid Gohan is. And so I have some of those, and every once in a while, someone will bring me a copy of something they made as a gift. And then I just like, well, here, let me sign it. And it's kind of like a little trade. That's near and dear to my heart because that's something a fan created. And it's like, right now I'm living in a hotel because our house flooded. So everything's packed. But once I do get back into a home, I'm hoping to have a room that's not just an office and a studio and all of that, but also something where I can, highlight those features and frame some things that mean a lot to me. And, have like everything on a shelf. And so right now it's like disarray, but there'll be a good time for when that time comes. Sure. Decorate, like have like a studio and like, I've got a keyboard. I want to like write some music, and right now it's kind of an in-between limbo time.
I hear that. So we're getting kind of close to the end. So let's do one big thing that I always do with everybody is what is one thing you would tell someone getting into voice acting, or in this case, since you also sing, let's go ahead and split those up. Give some advice for singing.
My personal advice is practice your craft. For me, I was doing it for fun all my life growing up as a kiddo. Listen back, record. There's so many opportunities to record yourself, listen back, hone in on something that if it's character voices or radio, or if you were trying to secure an agent to get auditions, there's all kinds of things you can do. But the best thing to do is to pack your resume, get involved in theater. There's workshops online. There's acting classes. Now that we're coming out of COVID, there's things online that you can do. You don't have to leave your house. There's probably more that I can even come up with myself. So just hone in on what you want to do and then get a demo done that you can have done either somebody in-house, or you can go online and see if there's somebody that you can even send the files, record what you think is good, have somebody chop it up, make it sound really great, and have like a really nice demo featuring your range. It can be anything from commercials to character voices, just rattled all off in a row. It doesn't even need to be even a minute long, just featuring. Some people want to do audiobooks. They just want to sit in their underwear and drink coffee and record audiobooks. And then you can go in and learn how to edit your own files, and you can chop things up. You can add things, take out some of the mouth noises or the background sounds that, fortunately I have a business partner that does this for me. He's going to teach me how whenever he can get me to sit down.
Super easy.
And not be all over right. Copy paste, it's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. And then I've been so spoiled because, I'm there for him if he needs a voice actor for something at his radio station. And then he's there for me for that. And anyway, it works out great. So, I personally don't know how to do any of that just yet. That's next on the agenda, but there's people that can help people get into the industry and help them on their path. There's no real rule book for it. You could be really good and not get a shot at something, or you might just not be the right voice for a specific thing, and you just have to prepare yourself for a lot of no's. Same thing with music. The music industry is very cutthroat. There's a lot of talent out there. I'm finding in my career personally that more people can sing than can really be a really good solid character voice actor, which I think has actually put me on the map more than my singing, which I thought would be flip-flopped, but you never know. It's like, hey, not complaining by any means. There's a lot of talent out there all over the world, and it's just a matter of finding what it is you want to do. If you want to write music, you want to write and sing it. Do you want to work with another songwriter? Do you want to put together a demo for that? I mean, some people put together demos to be a demo singer, and even that's great exposure. Someone might hear your voice and be like, who is that? Like, who's singing? I like that voice. So, I mean, I went just walking down the streets of Nashville trying to make it as a singer when I was like literally 25 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I just had what I thought was a good demo. A lot of times at that time in the 90s, it's like, no, you need to move to Nashville, or you need to move to LA, or you need to move to New York. So, I mean, location can definitely have a play in it. Like I said, I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and thankfully I do have, more options that I would had I stayed in a small town. Who knows if I would have stayed there on my own. But so there's all kinds of more than ever. I mean, at the touch of a button on your phone, or you can do a Google search. My personal experience was practicing a lot. I mean, even though it was for fun, I was doing it all the time. And to this day, I'll mimic something I hear on TV, or I'll mimic a jingle. And it's just, I just have an affinity for it. It's just a natural thing. So the more somebody does something, the better they're naturally going to be at it. Yeah. And you might land an audition that just shoots you to the top, and Disney or something. I don't know. I mean, it's very cutthroat. So prepare yourself to might be hard to really get into it. I couldn't get into jingles forever because the doors were shut and everybody knew each other. And it was like really hard to get in to that particular profession. But that's why it's like, sometimes you got to do what you don't want to necessarily do it for a living, to be able to pay your bills, until, might need to be kind of a hobby to start. And then once you kind of get a big break, but don't limit yourself. And being a voice actor, you can be any age. You don't have to be a child to get started. You can be any age to go into this profession. I think the music business is much more hard on age, as far as like marketing a pop singer or something like that. I think most will, I don't know, shy away from somebody that's older. I mean, I don't know. There's also competitions on TV, but then some of them have age limits. I know I was just too old for American Idol years ago, so it's like,
Maybe's Got Talent now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's got to be something, but exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of outlets for getting discovered.
Absolutely.
If you're good at something.
Justin Bieber was a YouTuber.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I would have loved to have YouTube when I was young.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'd have been all over that.
All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. Where can we find you social media wise?
I have a lot to learn, but my TikTok is at Steph Nadolny. Just STEPH, and then my last name Nadolny, and then a Facebook voice actress. Those are the ones that I'm focusing on right now. In between travel is the TikTok is a lot of fun, and then my Facebook is there for whatever. I've been on there forever, because then that keeps me in touch with all of my schoolmates that I grew up with, moving around. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's pretty easy to find me. I think I've got a Wikipedia page and IMDb. We're slowly adding some of my music. I've got a whole album of music from 1997 that is unbelievably cool.
Oh, wow.
That I would like to get up online. I'm just going to see if I can figure out a way to do that.
Hit up Spotify. Absolutely, get that stuff out there.
Yeah, and the Kitty Grade theme, opening and closing. I did some of those anime themes. We're slowly putting those on the website as well. So it's in the beginning stages. We'll be adding a lot of stuff over the coming months, and appearances and things like that as well. Awesome.
Well, thanks again, Stephanie. And guys, make sure you follow. All the links will be below in the YouTube. And then also, obviously, we're here on Twitch.
Yay! Yep. This is fun.
Yep, thanks again.
For having me.